The first morning after Owen moved into my apartment, he stood in the doorway with a mug of coffee and a face that screamed meeting agenda. "Before you run off to work," he said, "we need a cohab agreement." I was still in his too big t-shirt, hugging a pillow. Is this about the fact that I kick blankets in my sleep? That is Article 3 at best. He set the mug on my desk and pulled out his phone like he was about to screen share a deck. Article 1, Mutual Privacy. We do not go through each other's phones. I squinted at him. You are the one who works with contracts. Why are you afraid of my means? I am not afraid of your means. He leaned against the wall, impossibly calm. I am protecting us from arguments that start with "why were you online at 2 in the morning and evolve into "why did you like this post from your ex-classmate?" That sounds oddly specific. I muttered. He ignored me. Article 2. We replace boring check-in messages with sharing 3 small joys every day. 3. I groaned. What if I only have one, and it is cheap coffee, and no one yelled at me? Then you are already at 2. He said. Coffee and no one yelled at you. Find one more. A funny sticker, a cat in the street, a meme that made you snort. You live, you notice, you tell me. I do the same. I hated how much that warmed my chest. Fine. What is Article 3? Owen smiled. That small sideways thing that always makes my stomach flip. Article 3. Kitchen is my territory, balcony is yours. I cook, you design the sky. Design the sky? You pick plants, lights, chairs, whatever you want. That space is your little stage. I just want access for coffee. It was ridiculous. It was domestic. It was everything my parents warned me about and everything I never got to choose for myself. Deal. I said. But if you poison me, I am haunting this kitchen. Please, he said. You could not haunt your way out of a group chat. That night, our brand new cohab agreement almost died before it made it through 24 hours. It started with the neighbor's cat. Or rather, with Owen coming home late, shirt sleeves rolled up, a cardboard box in his arms, and a fluffy orange trader peeking out from the edge. Look who tried to follow me into the elevator, he said. Mrs. Perez is out of town. Her son asked if we could keep him a few nights. I had always wanted a cat. I just had not expected one to come with a bonus professor turned boyfriend turned roommate. We set the box down, opened it, and the cat marched out like he owned the lease. Owen read the instructions on the note. I sat on the floor and stuck out a hand. Hi, I whispered. We are temporary. The cat ignored me and headed for Owen's shoes. 2 hours later, our neighbor across the hall knocked. Loudly. I opened the door with the cat in my arms. Hey, is something wrong? She peered over my shoulder, saw Owen in the kitchen in a black t-shirt and sweatpants, and her eyes went wide. I heard yelling. She whispered. And a crash. Are you safe? I blinked, then heard it, delayed in my own brain. The crash was a saucepan hitting the floor when the cat decided to jump onto the counter. The yelling had been me shrieking when a tail brushed my ankle. Before I could explain, another voice echoed from the hallway. Ma'am, is everything okay? A uniformed officer stepped into view, hand resting on his belt. My stomach dropped. Someone had called the police. Amazing. Day 1 of cohab life, and we already had a record. I straightened. It was me. I said quickly. The yelling. I am okay, I swear. The crash was a pan, the attacker was a cat, and the man in the kitchen is my boyfriend, not a home invader. Behind me, Owen froze. Then, to my horror, he turned, lifted a hand, and waved at the officer like they were at a neighborhood barbecue. Hi, he said, voice calm. No danger here, just clumsy cookware and a very opinionated cat. The officer looked from me, to the cat, to Owen, to the neighbor. His shoulders loosened almost immediately. We had a noise complaint. I had to check. Sorry to bother you. My neighbor flushed bright red. I am so sorry, I just heard shouting and I panicked. It is okay. I said, still hugging the cat like a life jacket. If I ever do need help, I am glad you would call. After the door closed and the building quieted down, I sagged against the wall. Owen crossed the room and tilted my chin up with 2 fingers. Well, he said. That was a fast stress test for Article 1. I did not break any rules. I protested. Unless cats count as devices. He kissed my forehead. Next time the pan falls, shout at me on text instead of in person. The neighbors do not need the surround sound. I laughed despite myself. I will file a noise complaint on you when you start singing in the shower. Deal. He said. Now let me finish dinner. Our first official cohab meal is not going to be takeout. The cat meowed like he agreed. My first day at the new agency, I wore the most boring blazer I owned and still felt like my soul was carrying a sign that said fresh meat. The brand content department sat on the 12th floor of a glass box that looked down on the city like it was a mood board. Screens everywhere, plants in white pots, espresso machine that cost more than my parents' first car. This is our newest copywriter, my manager said, waving a hand at me during the morning stand-up. Ella Carter, good school, strong portfolio, used to intern in campaign strategy. She will shadow you this quarter, Grace. Grace was the senior copywriter. Perfect winged liner, manicured nails that matched her laptop case, smile that did not quite reach her eyes. Welcome, she said, reaching out to squeeze my shoulder. We will get you up to speed in no time. Translation, I will get you to do my work, and then attach my name to it in no time. I had dealt with worse in college group projects, but this time the grade was my rent. The first week, I sat next to her, watched the way she sliced through brief decks, and filled empty documents with hooks until my fingers hurt. She was fast, I would give her that. She was also very good at waiting until I was almost done with a draft, then saying, "Let me polish that," and sending the file forward under her own name. By Friday, I had 3 drafts in the system with my fingerprints all over them, and 0 mention of my existence. That night, sprawled on our couch with my laptop on my knees and a headache creeping behind my eyes, I told Owen everything. So she just takes it? I said. She leaves the note open with my cursor blinking in the top corner. I write the hook, the body copy, the alt text. She rearranges 2 lines and hits send. Owen listened like he always did, eyes focused, phone face down on the coffee table. "Welcome to corporate field work," he said finally. "First test is always invisible labor. Thank you for the encouragement." I deadpanned. He leaned forward. "I am not saying it is okay. I am saying you need receipts." Receipts? Evidence. Version history, timestamps, email trails. He tapped the back of my laptop. "You do not pick a fight with a senior on vibes. You show the record and let their own pattern hang them." I chewed my lip. "So I do what, exactly?" "Tomorrow," he said. "Open the document from your account, not hers. Save versions when you put in major work. When you send suggestions, do it by email or chat. Keep your tone collaborative but clear. When the quarter review comes, you will have a neat little log of your contributions." You make it sound so clean. "That is because I am a boring man who loves documentation," he said with no shame. "You can still be dramatic in the group chat. Just be organized in the server." The chance came faster than I expected. On Monday, the client for a new skincare line sent over an urgent brief. Launch in 8 weeks, saturated market, want something fresh, that did not scream we used an influencer, and hoped for the best. Grace spun her chair toward me. "Ella, this is perfect for you. Gen Z tone, honest but aspirational. Can you draft 3 hook directions by the end of the day?" "Sure," I said, fingers already itching. "And send them to me when you are done," she added. "I will bundle them with the rest." Of course. I opened a fresh doc in our shared drive under my name. I named it clearly with the project code and my initials. I turned on version history. And then I did what I do best. By 4 in the afternoon, I had 3 concepts I actually liked. One leaned into skin as a timeline, one into lighting design, one into the idea that the real filter was rest. I wrote hooks, supporting copy, and a few notes for visual direction. Then I exported a short summary and sent it to Grace in chat. "Here are 3 directions for Glowline," I wrote. "Full doc and version history under my folder if you want to add anything." Grace replied with a string of praise emojis. A few hours later, an email went out to the manager with a deck attached. From her. With my words. Except this time, I was ready. At the Wednesday team review, the manager pulled up the deck on the main screen. "I really like the honesty of this third route," she said, pointing to the line I had labored over for 20 minutes. "It feels human." "Grace, walk us through your thinking here." Grace smiled. "I wanted to tap into fatigue with filters and fake routines, position the product as a kind of quiet ally instead of a miracle. We are all tired of being sold miracles, right?" My ears burned. My instincts wanted to shrink into my chair and disappear. But behind that, somewhere deep in the chest cavity that used to only hold anxiety, a different instinct uncurled. Owen's voice in my head showed the record. "Actually," I heard myself say, "I can speak to that third route." The room shifted. Grace's smile tightened by a millimeter. The manager looked between us. "Go ahead, Ella." I swallowed and forced my voice to stay even. I drafted 3 directions for this brief. I said. Grace asked me to focus on Gen Z tone, so I leaned into long-term trust over instant transformation. The full drafts are in the Glowline folder under my name if you want to see how the roots compare. Silence hummed for a second. Then the manager turned back to the screen. Good. She said. I love when juniors own their ideas. Grace, next time loop Ella into the email thread, please. If she is writing at this level, I want her visible to the client. The look Grace sent me could have melted plastic. That night, when I told Owen what happened, he smirked over his bowl of pasta. Evidence. He said, lifting his fork. Magic word. I stabbed a piece of broccoli. I did not even have to show the version history. You still will someday. He said. But for now you sent a signal. People notice those. Does your job ever stop being chess? I asked. He thought about it. Not really. He admitted. But at least we are on the same side of the board. 2 weeks later, my manager pinged me with a calendar invite titled Casual Client Dinner. You will be fine, she said when I leaned over her desk. They just want to get a feel for our team energy. Esther and I will be there too. I wanted to believe her. I really did. The restaurant was one of those dark wood places where the menus did not have prices, which meant everything cost more than my entire weekly grocery budget. The client rep was a man in his 40s with a smooth watch and smoother laugh. For an hour, everything was normal. We talked about brand values, target segments, the risk of trend chasing. I sipped water and answered questions about tone and narrative. Then the plates were cleared, fresh drinks appeared, and the rep leaned back in his chair with a smile that made my skin crawl. You know, he said, looking right at me instead of at my manager. I always say relationships matter more than numbers. People sign with people, not logos. I forced a professional smile. I agree that trust is important. Exactly, he said. So why do we not build some trust tonight? There is a lounge upstairs, more private. We can talk through off-record ideas. Just you and me, no pressure. There it was. The part of the story that never made it into glossy career blogs. My manager shifted in her seat. We have an early meeting tomorrow, she said quickly. Better to settle the bill and head home. He waved a hand. I will send a car. Let the juniors enjoy the city a bit, yes? Esther stared at her plate. I felt my pulse in my throat. The old version of me would have laughed it off and gone home and tried to forget. The new version of me had a boyfriend who was a lawyer and who had slipped a small recorder into my bag that afternoon with a casual. For your notes, turn it on if anything feels off. I took a breath and smiled again, this time sharp enough to cut. I am glad you brought up trust, I said. Because my trust lives inside the contract we all signed. He blinked. What? Our company has a clear policy on off-record meetings and client entertainment. I said, still polite, still deadly. All agenda discussions stay in group settings or scheduled calls with at least 2 team members. For our safety and yours. My manager's eyes flicked to me, astonished. I kept going. If you would like more privacy, we can book a larger meeting room at the office and record the session. His smile cracked for the first time. That is not necessary, he said. No need to be so stiff. We are all adults here. Exactly, I said. Which is why we all honor the same boundaries. I am happy to keep building a professional relationship with you and your brand, but my after hours are not part of the retainer. Esther choked on her water. My manager coughed into her napkin to cover a laugh. The client rep stared at me like he was trying to decide whether to be offended or impressed. Finally, he pushed his chair back. Fine, he said. You are serious people. I respect that. Let us call it a night. The next day, the agency's compliance team quietly added a note to his file. By the end of the month, he was no longer invited to our account meetings. Someone higher up replaced him with a woman who greeted me with a firm handshake and no weird invitations. Owen listened to my story in the kitchen, arms folded, jaw tight. I knew something felt off when I saw the invite subject line. He said, "You are not allowed to be right about everything." I told him, leaning against the counter. It is annoying. His expression softened. You were right where it counted. I exhaled. My hands were shaking the whole time. You still set the boundary, he said. Next time it will shake less. And if anyone ever punishes you for saying no, I will make paperwork their worst nightmare. I smiled. Is that a lawyer proposal? Partial, he said. The full version comes with dessert. The brief for the summer campaign hit my inbox with a subject line that made me sit up straight. Sky Mirror. The attached deck showed a travel brand partnership with a destination that looked suspiciously familiar. Blue sky, white salt, people standing in shallow water, their reflections stretching under them like doubled silhouettes. Tea Lake, the Chinese name on the deck said. Salt Lake, sky mirror. Wait, I muttered. I have been there. 2 years earlier, I had run away from my parents and my almost arranged life to a place called the Sky Mirror. I had stood in borrowed boots and looked at my own reflection and wondered if I would ever be brave enough to choose my own story. Now the Sky Mirror was back on my laptop, asking me to sell it to strangers. You are smiling at a brief, my coworker Jay said, stopping by my desk. Weird. Are you okay? I have history with this place. I said. Personal history. I think I can do something with it. The idea came fast and simple. No heavy slogans. No fake transformations. Just people being fully themselves in a place where the sky literally doubled you. We called it Mirror Your Real. Short vertical clips of people standing on the salt, looking at their reflections, sharing one truth they wanted to keep and one mask they were ready to drop. No filters. No retouching. Just sky, water, and words. We built a hashtag challenge. We partnered with smaller creators who had real stories, not just perfect faces. We pitched the brand on letting go of control a little. To our surprise, they said yes. The campaign went live in early summer. Within a week, the tag was flooded with videos from all over the world. People in rented rubber boots, tourists who had never made content before, couples, friends, solo travelers. The comments were full of strangers cheering for each other's tiny acts of honesty. This is so much better than an influencer ad. One top comment read, feels like a group diary. I screenshotted it and sent it to Owen with a caption that just said we did it. Of course, nothing that works stays clean for long. On day 10, a competitor brand launched a suspiciously similar campaign. Same framing, same reflection shots, tagline so close you could taste the copy-paste. Jay swore at his monitor. Grace pretended not to notice. Our manager called a meeting. Ella, she said. You know the asset chain best. Can we prove we were first? Yes, I said. We have deck timestamps, internal emails, the contract, and the first live upload record. Owen helped me that night, because of course he did. We sat at the kitchen table with both our laptops open, building a neat timeline. Brief date. Concept approval. Internal test shoot. First public post. We added screenshots, file metadata, platform logs. The next morning, legal drafted a letter to the competitor brand and the platform, attaching our proof. By the end of the week, the copycat campaign had quietly changed its tagline and deleted half its posts. The platform added a small note under our challenge tag, original partner content. I watched the little badge appear on my phone screen and thought about the girl I had been at the real Sky Mirror 2 years earlier, scared and stubborn and totally alone. You look proud, Owen said, sliding an arm around my waist from behind. I feel seen, I said slowly. Not just by you, by strangers who do not know they're cheering for me, but kind of are. He kissed my temple. Let them cheer, he said. You built the stage. Success is a weird magnet. It attracts congratulations, jealousy, and people who dig up your old mess for sport. The week after the Sky Mirror campaign hit its peak, a gossip blogger posted a thread about problematic brand faces and tagged our agency. In between vague conspiracy theories about executives and influencers, there was a screenshot of me and Owen from the hospital years ago, when he had fed me fruit while I tried not to drool on the pillow. The caption read, "Student seduces professor, now writes campaigns for global brands. Is this who we reward?" It was not original. Variations of the rumor had been floating around our campus forums forever. But this time, it had my real name, my employer, and 10,000 strangers in the replies. I found the thread in the break room between meetings. My hands went cold, then hot. Owen saw it at almost the same time in his office across town. By the time I texted him with a shaky "there it is," he had already forwarded the link to legal and pulled up an old folder on his desktop labeled simply noise. Back then, when the rumor first hit campus, we had been too young and too scared to make it a big deal. We had survived it, somehow. Now we were adults, and the stakes were higher. Round 2. He wrote back. We do it right this time. The plan came together faster than I expected. The university still had a record of the investigation they had done when the rumor first appeared. It had concluded there was no policy violation, no overlaps in grading, no pressure, no misconduct. We had been careful to the point of paranoia. Owen contacted the university legal office. Within a day, they issued a short public statement. Years ago, an anonymous complaint had been reviewed and closed. No current concerns. Please stop harassing alumni. At the same time, Owen's firm sent the blogger a strongly worded letter about defamation and evidence. That could have been the end of it. Quiet, boring, handled by men in suits. But I kept thinking about younger me, refreshing a campus thread at 3 in the morning, wondering if I would ever be able to show my face without someone whispering. So I did something I had never done before. I opened my notes app and drafted a long post. Not about my love story with Owen, not in a dramatic confession way, but about boundaries and proof, and how easily gossip could ruin someone who did not have lawyers on speed dial. I talked about how students deserved safe channels to report real misconduct, and how fake stories made it harder for real victims to be believed. I explained how I had learned to save emails, log meetings, and say no without a question mark at the end. I added resources, hotline numbers, and links to basic legal rights at work and at school. Then I posted it on my personal account with the caption, "For the girl refreshing threads at 3 in the morning." I muted the comments and threw my phone onto the couch, heart racing. Hours later, Jay sent me a screenshot. The blogger had deleted the original post and uploaded an apology slideshow instead. It was messy and defensive in places, but the word sorry was there. Our agency shared my resource thread internally as a training link. A few other women in the industry reposted it with their own notes. Most importantly, my younger self, somewhere in my chest, finally unclenched her fists a little. Owen came home with takeout and a look I knew well, somewhere between proud and furious on my behalf. "You could have let me handle it," he said, setting the bags on the table. "I did let you handle the legal part," I said. "I just also handled my part." He stepped closer, thumb brushing my cheek. "You did more than handle it," he said softly. "You turned a cheap rumor into a manual for survival. That is more generous than they deserve." "I was not doing it for them," I said. "I was doing it for me, and for anyone who wants out of the dark." He nodded. "Then I am very, very glad you hit post." My parents had always measured life in milestones, test scores, scholarships, degrees. They had never quite known what to do with feelings that did not come with certificates. So when they invited Owen and me over for dinner one Sunday, I braced myself. My mom cooked enough food for a wedding reception. My dad wore the good shirt he reserved for grant presentations. The table looked like an offering to the gods of adulthood. During dessert, my mom cleared her throat. "So," she said, pretending to wipe a non-existent crumb from her plate, "now that work is stable, and you two are living together, eh? Here we go," I thought. My dad folded his hands. "Have you thought about setting a date?" I set down my fork. "A date? For the wedding?" My mom said, eyes shining. "Your father checked the calendar. This year has several very auspicious weekends." I stared at them. My brain flashed through deadlines, campaigns, rent, passwords, and then landed on the simple fact that I did not want to pick a wedding date like another exam. "I want to get promoted first," I blurted. "I want to prove to myself that I can stand on my own feet in this career before I walk down an aisle." Silence crackled over the table. My mom's brows knitted. "You can do both," she said. "We got married young and still built our careers. With grandma raising me," I said before I could swallow it. "You were working late every night." The words hung there, sharp and honest. I did not say them to hurt, but they hurt anyway. My mom's mouth pressed into a line. My dad opened his mouth, then closed it again. Before they could regroup, Owen set his fork down. "Mrs. Carter," he said gently. "Mr. Carter, may I say something?" They both looked at him. I wanted to crawl under the table and scream into a napkin. "Ella is not saying she does not want to marry me," he said. "She is saying she wants to walk into that chapter feeling secure in herself. I support that completely." My mom blinked. "You do, of course," he said. "I fell in love with her mind, not her marital status. A ceremony will not make us more real. It will just be a beautiful party we throw when she is ready." My dad studied him, the way he used to study complicated data sets. "And you are not worried she will change her mind after she is promoted?" he asked. Owen smiled. "If a promotion can break us, then we should not be getting married at all. I am not here to outrun her success. I am here to celebrate it." My mom exhaled, some of the tension leaving her shoulders. "You talk well," she said grudgingly. "For a man who steals my daughter away." "He does not steal me," I said. "We carpool." She laughed despite herself. The room softened. Later, when we stood in the hallway putting on our coats, my mom pulled me into a quick hug. "You could have told us sooner how you felt," she whispered. I did not know how. I whispered back. I did not want to sound ungrateful. She squeezed me. "Wanting to choose your own timing is not ingratitude. It is adulthood. I am still learning that." In the car, on the way home, I slumped against my seat. "You are dangerous," I told Owen. "My mother likes you more than she likes me right now." He chuckled. "That is statistically impossible, but I will accept the compliment. If you ask Owen, he will tell you he is not dramatic. He will point at his neatly labeled folders, his quiet voice in meetings, his plain dark suits. If you ask me, I will tell you he has a secret flair for spectacle." I found that out the night my roommate accidentally turned his private proposal rehearsal into a live stream. It started with a text from Mia, my ex-roommate and current chaos magnet. "Bring Owen to the cafe Saturday at 6, she wrote. "Bring no questions." I showed him the message. "Think she is in trouble?" I asked. "She always sounds like she is in trouble," he said. We go. The cafe had closed for the evening, but the lights were on. A handwritten sign on the door said private event. Mia waved us in with suspiciously bright eyes. "What is going on?" I asked. "Nothing," she said. "Absolutely nothing. Go to the back patio." The patio looked like Pinterest had exploded. Fairy lights, lanterns, a cheap Bluetooth speaker playing soft music. There was even a chalkboard with the words Project Review written in curly letters. I turned to Owen slowly. "You knew." His ears went a little pink. I may have asked Mia to help me test a setup. "Test a what?" "Nothing," he said too quickly. Before I could press him, my phone buzzed. Notifications. Lots of them. "Mia's live," said one banner. I opened the app and saw my own face, small and confused, on a screen. Comments flooded in. "Is this the proposal?" Someone wrote. "He better kneel," another said. I spun around. Mia was in the corner, phone propped up on a tripod, eyes wide with guilt. "It was supposed to be private," she yelped. I mistapped my story button, I swear, but then 500 people joined, and I panicked, and now they think he is proposing. I am so sorry. My heart pounded. Owen ran a hand over his face. "Well," he said under his breath. "So much for subtle testing." The comment count climbed. "Proposal, proposal, proposal," the crowd chanted in tiny digital letters. I looked at the chalkboard, at the fairy lights, at Owen, at Mia. Then something reckless and familiar rose in my throat. "Fine," I said. "If the internet wants a show, we give them one. A fake one." I grabbed a dry erase marker and scribbled a grid on the chalkboard. "Welcome to Proposal Plan Beta," I said, turning to the camera with my most serious presentation voice. "Tonight, we will be scoring this man on 3 key metrics: emotional clarity, logistical feasibility, and overall wow factor." Owen stared at me, then burst out laughing. "Of course you turned this into a performance review," he said. "Take a seat, candidate," I said, pointing at a chair. "The panel has questions." For the next 10 minutes, I interviewed him like a project lead. "Why do you think you are qualified to propose to me?" "Because I have tolerated your late-night snack experiments for years," he answered smoothly. "And because I know how you take your coffee even when you insist you do not care." The comments went feral. "This is better than any drama," someone wrote. "If he does not truly propose after this, I am suing," another said. At the end, I held up the marker like a microphone. "Final score," I said. 9 out of 10. Strong candidate. Needs to work on surprise," as he allowed unauthorized live streaming. The chat flooded with laughing emojis. Owen stood, walked over, and gently took the marker from my hand. "For the record," he murmured, just loud enough for the mic to catch. "When I do this for real, it will be between you and me. No camera, no panel, just one question, and a ring you can say yes or not yet to." My breath caught. I nodded, suddenly shy in front of 1,000 strangers, who could not feel the way the world narrowed to his face in that moment. "Then we will end the beta here," I said, and hit end on the stream. After, Mia clung to me and apologized again. I laughed and shook my head. If that was the rehearsal, I told Owen as we walked home under the streetlights. "I am terrified of the actual premiere." "You should be," he said. "In a good way." The first snow of the year came as a joke. The blizzard that followed was the punchline. The city announced work from home for anyone who could manage it. Our agency sent a cheerful email about safety and remote collaboration. Owen's firm shut the office and moved all meetings to video. For 7 days, our apartment was the whole universe. Day 1, we set up a shared schedule on the fridge. My calls, his calls, snack breaks, stretch alarms. The cat, now a frequent visitor, claimed the sunny side of the couch. Day 2, we started fighting about blankets. You steal all of them. He complained at 2 in the morning as he pried the duvet from my death grip. You have more surface area. I muttered. Physics says you need less. Day 3, the toothpaste war began. You squeeze from the middle, he said, horrified, holding up the mangled tube like evidence in court. It still comes out, I said. The job gets done. This is anarchy, he whispered. By day 4, we had an official argument about dishes, an unofficial argument about whether pineapple belonged on pizza, and an accidental almost argument about a comment he made in a meeting that I heard through the wall and misinterpreted. On day 5, after we both snapped at each other over nothing and ended up in different rooms scrolling on our phones, he walked into the bedroom with a notebook. We need a conflict protocol, he said. You want a contract for fighting? I asked, half laughing, half exhausted. Not a contract, he said. A rule to keep us from becoming people we do not like. He sat on the edge of the bed. 24-hour review, he said. When we fight, we give ourselves up to a day to cool down. After that, we have to sit down, no phones, and talk through what actually happened. Not who was right in the moment, but what we were really scared of or tired about. I stared at him. You want to retroactively turn our stupid blanket war into therapy? Yes, he said simply. Because it is never just about blankets. A laugh bubbled up in my chest, tangled with something softer. Fine, I said. But I reserve the right to keep being dramatic during the first phase. Of course, he said. Phase 1 is passion. Phase 2 is precision. We shook on it like dorks. Day 6, our neighbor knocked again, this time with the cat in her arms and a tray of cookies. Thank you for helping when the pipes froze, she said. We saw your video about boundaries and wanted to say we are glad you live here. I looked at Owen. He looked at me. I guess we are not the noisy problem kids anymore, I whispered later, watching snow pile up on the balcony railing. Speak for yourself, he said. You still sing in the shower. Day 7, the storm broke. The sky cleared. The city started moving again. I almost missed the little snow bubble we had made, with its blanket wars, and toothpaste debates, and 24-hour treaties. Is it weird that I liked being stuck with you? I asked as we watched the plows go by. It would be concerning if you did not, he said. You chose to live with me, remember? I thought I was choosing the cat, I said. He smirked. Too late now. The annual brand showcase was our industry's version of prom. One night, one big stage, everyone dressed up and pretending they did not care about the awards as much as they did. This year, our agency was presenting the Sky Mirror campaign as a case study. My case study. I wore a simple black dress and borrowed heels that made me slightly taller than my fear. Owen wore a dark suit and that look he gets when he is planning 3 steps ahead. Backstage, the air buzzed with nerves and hairspray. Jay checked the slides for the 20th time. Grace pretended to scroll through her phone, but kept glancing at the audience through the curtain. You okay? Owen asked, finding me near the stage door. I am one loose wire away from throwing up, I said honestly. He squeezed my hand. Good. Means you care. I will be at the side exit. If anything feels off, you look at me. You are not my bodyguard, I said. Tonight, he replied. I am whatever you need me to be. The first part of the show went smoothly. Awards for other agencies, clapping, polite laughter. When our turn came, I walked onto the stage with my manager, lights warm on my face, 100 faces in the dark. I started talking about the brief, the insight, the risk of letting real people take over your message. My voice steadied as the case study video rolled behind me, and then the screen went black. The house lights flickered, a murmur rolled through the crowd. For a split second, every disaster scenario I had ever imagined exploded in my brain. Sabotage. Technical failure. Meme fodder for weeks. Then training kicked in. We tested a backup, right? I whispered into my mic, eyes on the front row where our tech team sat. Jay half stood, frantically signaling. Someone behind the stage waved their arms. I had 2 options. Freeze or talk. I took a breath. Well, I said, forcing a smile. This is the part where all the decks in the world cannot help you. A ripple of laughter, shaky but real. Since our sky and lake seem to be shy, I went on. Let me tell you about the girl who stood there first. No edits, no music, just a borrowed pair of boots and too many thoughts. I told them about my trip to the Salt Lake, about the feeling of seeing my reflection stretch under me and realizing I could be both scared and brave at the same time. As I spoke, I saw movement at the tech table. A backup laptop, a fresh cable, people working fast because they knew someone was buying them time. 2 minutes later, the screen flickered back on, the case study video humming to life mid-sentence. I stepped aside, heart pounding, and let the footage speak. After we walked off stage to applause that sounded a little louder than politeness, our production head grabbed my arm. Someone tampered with the main feed. She whispered, "We are investigating, but you handled that like a pro." Owen was waiting by the side door, jaw tight. "You okay?" he asked, scanning me like I might sprout cracks. I improvised in front of a room full of people who judge improv for a living. I said, "I am going to need 3 desserts." He exhaled, some of the tension leaving his shoulders. "You got it." The next day, security footage and access logs revealed that a junior from a rival agency had slipped into our tech booth with a fake badge. The board was not amused. At the emergency meeting, our production head laid out the evidence. Footage, timestamps, witness statements. The rival agency's leadership stumbled over apologies. And then, to my surprise, my name came up. Ella handled the crisis communication on stage. My manager said, "She kept the audience with us. Without her, we would have had a disaster on our hands." The board chair nodded. Noted. I did not fully understand what that meant until the next agenda item. I had never been inside the big boardroom before. The table was a dark ocean. The chairs looked like they could rotate people out of careers. My hands sweated around my notebook as I sat between my manager and the head of strategy. Owen had kissed my forehead that morning and told me to drink water and speak truth. Next item. The chair said. Promotion recommendations. Names were read. Titles shifted. And then my manager cleared her throat. "I would like to propose we move Ella from junior copywriter to lead brand writer on the Sky Mirror account and similar narrative projects," she said. Several heads turned. Some curious, some skeptical. "She has been here less than 2 years. One executive said. "That is fast." "Fast track does not mean unearned," my manager replied. "She led the core insight on our most successful campaign this year, handled a live sabotage with grace, and turned a social media crisis into a positive narrative." "And you are sure this is not just a one-off?" another asked. My heart hammered. I thought of all the nights I had stared at blinking cursors, all the drafts that never saw daylight, all the times I had swallowed my voice in favor of harmony. "May I say something?" I asked before I could overthink. The chair nodded. "Go ahead, Ella." I swallowed and looked around the table. "I know I am young," I said. "And I know promotion discussions usually happen in rooms like this without the person present. But since I am here, I want you to know this is not an accident." The words surprised even me, but they kept coming. I built Sky Mirror because I understood what it felt like to stand in front of a reflection and not recognize yourself. I said. I handled the blackout because I have been living with rumors and noise for years. I turned that experience into something that helps our clients and our audience. I took a breath. If you give me this role, I will not just chase awards. I will protect the stories we tell. I will make sure they are honest, inclusive, and worth the trust people give us when they watch. Silence. Then the chair smiled, just a little. "Thank you," she said. "That is the clearest pitch I have heard all week." The vote was not unanimous, but it did not have to be. An hour later, I walked out of the boardroom with a new title and a dizzy sense that the floor had shifted under me in a good way. I called Owen from the sidewalk. He picked up on the first ring. "Status report?" I laughed, half choked. "Lead brand writer. Effective next month." For the first time since I met him, Owen hooped. "I am so proud of you," he said. "We are ordering every dessert on that menu tonight." When a popular relationship podcast reached out about doing an episode on boundaries, secrets, and online love, my first instinct was to pretend I had never seen the email. Then I remembered younger me again, sitting in the dark with her phone, refreshing threads. I forwarded the email to Owen with the note, "If we do this, we do it our way." He replied, "Always." We recorded in a small studio, with a couch and 2 microphones that made me feel like I should know how to be profound on command. The host introduced us as Ella, a brand writer, and Owen, a lawyer, who met in the weirdest possible combination of professor office hours and online games. "That is surprisingly accurate," I said. "We talked about a lot of things. How we met, without getting into details that were nobody's business. How we set rules for ourselves once we started dating. Why we had waited to go public, and why we had chosen to now. We are not here to romanticize power imbalances, Owen said at one point, voice steady. We are here to show that you can stop something before it becomes unhealthy, you can ask for help, and you can refuse to let gossip define your story. The host asked me what I would tell someone who was dating in the gray zone between school and work, or between different levels of power. Write things down. I said. Keep receipts. Tell at least one friend you trust what is happening. If the person you are seeing hates the idea of documentation or witnesses, that is your sign to run. We also laughed a lot. About the cat, the neighbor, the toothpaste wars, our 24-hour fight rule. At the end, the host asked if we wanted to share anything about our future plans. Owen looked at me. I looked at him. We are not sharing a date, I said firmly. He held up his hands. No date. He agreed. Just a promise. He turned to the mic. We are in this for the long haul, he said. Whatever form that takes. Paperwork will catch up when it is supposed to. The episode went live a week later. My inbox filled with messages from strangers. Some creepy, sure, but most were simple and kind. I listened to your story on my lunch break and cried in my car, one said. Thank you for saying we are allowed to wait until we feel safe. Another said, I showed this to my boyfriend and we decided to make our own fight rules. 24-hour review is genius. I screenshot that one and sent it to Owen with the caption, we are influencing healthy conflict now. He replied, we are menaces. I love it. The night Owen finally proposed for real, there was no fairy light rehearsal, no live stream, no panel. Just us, our balcony, and a city that hummed below like white noise. He had strung a few warm bulbs along the railing, and laid out a blanket and 2 mugs of hot chocolate. The basil plant watched from the corner like a tiny green chaperone. Why are you fidgeting? I asked, curling my hands around my mug. I am not fidgeting. He lied. Your knee is shaking. He took a breath, set his mug down, and turned to face me fully. Ella, he said. Do you remember the night you texted me from the sky mirror and said, if you were real, would you date me? I laughed softly. I remember thinking I was very brave, and also very stupid. Brave, he said. Not stupid. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, plain tin. For one ridiculous second, I thought he had brought more cocoa powder. Then he opened it. Inside, nestled on black velvet, was a thin gold band and 2 tiny polished stones that looked like coffee beans. I could have given you a ring 2 years ago, he said. I could have asked out of fear. Fear that you would leave, fear that someone else would see what I see in you. I am glad I waited until I could ask out of something else. Out of what? I whispered. Out of respect, he said. For the woman you are becoming. For the girl you were at that lake. For the miles between those 2 people that you walked on your own. My eyes burned. We do not have to set a date tonight, he said. We can pick a city, or a desert, or a tiny courthouse. We can throw a party, or sign papers quietly and eat noodles after. I do not care. He held out the ring. All I want is to know that when I say we, you still hear a future that lets you breathe. I stared at the ring, at his hand, at the sky that was not a mirror, but felt like one anyway. My whole life, other people had handed me scripts. Study this, be this, marry then, work there. For the first time, the words in front of me were mine. Yes, I said, my voice shaking and sure at the same time. Yes to us. Yes to choosing, over and over. He slipped the ring onto my finger. It fit like it had been measured in quiet moments I had not even noticed. We kissed, and for once, the city did not feel like it was watching. Later, months later, when we finally did pick a date, it was not from a calendar of auspicious weekends. It was the day we found cheap flights to a small town with a lake and a chapel, and a buffet that served noodles at midnight. My parents cried. Mia live texted me memes. Jay made a slideshow that roasted my earliest copy lines. On our way back from the airport, exhausted and married and still ourselves, Owen squeezed my hand. Alternative ending, he said. Drive straight to Vegas, find the first chapel with a flickering sign, and do this again for fun. No, I said with a grin. We are not giving the rumors that kind of plot twist. He laughed. Fair enough. He lifted our joined hands to his lips. Then we stick with this ending, he said. 2 nerds who met in the glitch between online and real life, who learned to fight fair, who built a home out of a small apartment and a lot of paperwork. And a cat, I added. And a cat. He agreed. We drove into the city lights, Not perfectly healed, not perfectly certain, but together. For the first time, the story ahead of me did not feel like a script to follow or a test to pass. It felt like a series of choices. And this time, I was the one holding the pen.
Thanks for watching. Follow for more romance stories.